Well, something big is going on right now with the war between Russia and Ukraine. Multiple Republicans are issuing dire warnings. And not only that, but the ultra rich are buying bunkers en masse and heading underground. Now, before I get into the report, I want to remind you, check out my partner at noblegoldinvestments.com. Right now, with any approved IRA or 401k, they are giving away this 3-ounce American Virtue silver coin. And this thing is awesome. It's one of the best giveaways that I've seen them do, but it's very thick and it's actually 3D. That coin has the 3D there of Thomas Jefferson. This thing is awesome. But give them a call today and diversify your profile and let them know you heard it on Lisa Haven. But make sure you take care of that because the economy is going south. All right. So let's start first with these warnings that are being issued by many of our Republican representatives regarding what's going on between Ukraine and Russia. Take a look at this first one here. And this is on foxnews.com, but it's Representative Mike Gallagher, a Republican, says Biden deterrence strategy will fail Taiwan like it did in Ukraine. The Wisconsin lawmaker said we need to wake up and realize that we do live in a dangerous world. He goes on to state, Representative Mike Gallagher, a Republican, warned viewers on Sunday night in America about the threat posed by China and Iran as the Russia invasion of Ukraine enters its second week. It goes on. As Russia forces continue to bomb and invade Ukraine cities, Fox News host Trey Gowdy, another Republican, commented how China refused to respond or condemn Russia's behavior on the world stage. It goes on that Trey Gowdy asked the Wisconsin lawmaker why China would refuse to denounce Russia's action. And he goes on, because, of course, China wants to do the same with Taiwan. Gallagher replied, condemning Biden and his administration for failing to properly deter Russian aggression, which is exactly what I've been stating here on my channel, by the way. But he goes on to state this. When the dust settles, despite the very real bravery on display by the Ukrainian people, deterrence in this case failed. The Biden administration thought that sanctions and tweets would be enough to deter, but they failed to apply the kind of hard power that would have deterred Putin from launching this war in the first place. By the way, a war that could still escalate and involve us at any moment, Gallagher said. Although the world's attention is on Ukraine, Gallagher warned that Biden's failure to handle Russia could be used as an invitation for more authoritarian countries to invade other countries. Now, he's not the only one that is issuing a warning, by the way. Here's another one coming from Nikki Haley, another Republican. But here it is, and this is also on Fox News. Nikki Haley, providing Russia with oil money is absolute lunacy. And I agree with that. Former U.S. ambassador to the UN says Ukraine allies must start leading. She goes on to state this, and I'm just going to quote the later half of what she says. And she says, we've got to make sure we sanction these energy companies, all of them, regarding Russia. We've got to make sure that we pull them out of the international banking system. And we need to stop taking any Russian oil. The idea that we would give our money to an enemy is unthinkable, and it's absolute lunacy. We can't allow this to continue. Now, in this next report, what you're going to see is Mark Levin, that goes on to expand on the crisis and the oil crisis and how stupid, if you will, the Biden administration has been. But take a look at this. This is also on Fox News. Biden, a disgrace and a disaster. Amen. On Russia-Ukraine war, says Mark Levin. He said, and I quote, we've never had such a pathetic team in modern American history up against true, vile, genocidal maniacs. And here's what he actually states. And Mark says, I mean, Biden is the so-called commander-in-chief. He is a disgrace and a disaster. He actually has the Russians negotiating with the Iranians on a nuclear deal with us. What kind of fool does that? I mean, I will never know. He puts more sanctions on the American oil industry, amen, and no sanctions on the Russia oil industry as we speak. What kind of fool does that when we can use oil to debilitate debilitate the Russian economy, the Putin economy, and the war machine rather than debilitate you, Mr. and Mrs. America. We have a damn fool in the White House. There's no question about that. And we should be muscling up our military for any possibilities. And we're not. Despite sending trillions and trillions of massive debt, we are not muscling up the U.S. military. Russia, China, Iran, the axis of evil, and the real axis of evil that now exists. And he concludes, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here, but he concludes with this one bombshell statement. He says, by the time this administration's done in Washington, the Iranians will have nuclear missiles, China will have conquered Taiwan, and Russia may well be marching into other countries. God forbid that any of that whatsoever happens. But maybe this is why many thousands, if you will, or lots of the mega rich are buying bunkers and building underground. Take a look at this one here on the sun.co.uk, and its business is booming. I sell multi-million-dollar doomsday bunkers, and Russia's nuke threat is fueling a very huge spike in that demand. It goes on. Gary Lynch, the GM of Texas-based Rising S Company, told The Sun that demand for its survival shelters has soared more than 1,000 times since Thursday, the day Russian troops entered Ukraine. Speaking from a hardware store where he was buying supplies in bulk to keep up with the surging demand, Lynch said, business has increased astronomically over the last few days. Typically, he says, I sell between 2 and 6 shelters a month, and usually winter is a quiet time for us. But I have sold 5 units alone on Thursday, and I've sold 2 more already today. There's no telling how many more orders we will get. The phone hasn't stopped ringing, and we've been sending out so many quotes, added Lynch. And he concludes, interest has been pouring in from across not only the U.S., but the rest of the world as well. And I quote, I've been getting inquiries from Italy. I've gotten an inquiry from the United Kingdom, from Denmark, Japan, Canada, from the U.S., and that's just from over the weekend. The interest is not just isolated to the U.S., it's everywhere. Lynch said the main concerns of his customers are those calling in for quotes that seem to be the idea that Russia may be invading countries beyond Ukraine, forcing Western allied forces into military action and starting a full-fledged world war. And they're justified to be fearful of that, Lynch said. Just look at what's going on. Vladimir Putin is threatening nuclear war, saying it would be something the world has never seen. So obviously, a lot of bunkers are getting bought in mass by a lot of these millionaires because of fear of what's going on between the war of Russia and Ukraine and the potential possibility that Putin could invade other countries. This is causing mass panic, if you will, from the uber rich, and they're buying up these bunkers. In fact, if you go to the Google Trends and look up doomsday bunkers, like the search term of what people are doing, you can see the search term for doomsday bunkers has exploded in New Zealand, Australia, US, Canada, and the United Kingdom. In other words, I don't believe that the requests are just subject to the one Texas company. I think that all doomsday bunker agencies and businesses are probably booming at this time. Anyhow, I wanted to bring all that information to you. Lots of things are happening regarding the war. We have many Republicans issuing warnings, and we also have doomsday bunkers being bought. Obviously, a lot of people are worried about what's going on with this war, and rightly so. But if you want information about what's going on, where I can be open and talk to you about the truth, get to restrictedrepublic.com. Right now, we are giving away 2 months free. Please use the coupon code 2 and the number free. That's 2 free. But check it out at restrictedrepublic.com and get there, because we give inside information about what's going on restrictedrepublic.com. Anyhow, I love all of you. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.